Hey, this is Carrie Brazier, and welcome to Baking with the Braziers. I've got my husband, Tim, here.
Hi!
And today we're going to be making Madeleines.
Oh man, I'm so excited. I love Madeleines.
Okay, so the reason why I chose to do Madeleines next is because Madeleines really are awesome. They are so much better than muffins, let me tell you. They're a slightly smaller portion, but they are the best part. It's like having a muffin tin.
You don't have to go around. Yeah, you don't have to go around to all the muffins and just eat the tops off and leave the rest for the dogs.
Right.
Now you can just enjoy the premium part of the muffin. So now we paint it first.
No, I'm buttering the muffin tin with some melted butter. That's a silicone pastry brush. And my favorite muffin tins are these Le Creuset ones, but you could get. Why do I keep calling it a muffin tin? It's like I want to call it a muffin tin, but it's not. It's a Madeleine tin. So these are from Le Creuset, and they are awesome. Okay, so for this recipe, we're going to be making like a brown butter cardamom, super warm, cinnamony Madeleine. And so I'm browning the butter again. And I didn't do this in the last video when we made cinnamon rolls, so I thought I would show you this time how I brown butter.
You have to do it ridiculously fast.
Yes. We speed it up. So this is a stick and a half of, I actually use salted butter for this. So, but you don't have to use salted butter. You can use unsalted butter, but you might want to add a pinch of salt to the recipe. I like using salt in my baked goods because it makes them taste better.
Salt is delicious.
So I sped this up, and I speed it up anyway. I do it over high heat because it takes a while. You could see that I was kind of walking away, but now I'm going to slow the video down, and I'm going to babysit it a little bit more. I don't walk away after it starts to brown a little bit. So it has a little bit of color, but not enough. And what it starts to do is it starts to foam up. It sizzles really loud for a little while, and then it gets super quiet. And when it gets quiet, you know it's getting close. Yeah, that's what it sounds like when it's loud.
Does it really sound like that?
Yeah, it's like sizzly and loud, and it sounds like a frying pan.
Guys, I just made that up. Like a butter whisperer.
But then it gets quiet, and you really have to pay attention. It's like children. When they're loud, you're like, okay, but when they get quiet, you know they're doing something they shouldn't be doing, and you have to focus and pay attention. So brown butter is the same way. See how it got super dark in that spot? The foam kind of dissipates, and you can swirl it around a little bit, and when I kind of move the pan back and forth and get the foam to move to the side, I can see the brown butter on the bottom. I think this is real time. So I want some color. I don't want it to burn. It's still brown. It's not black.
What happens if it burns?
It's not usable. It gets kind of bitter. So brown butter tastes good on everything, even savory foods. Like our favorite pasta is at Old Spaghetti Factory, that brown butter and Mazithra cheese.
That's good.
It's so fabulous.
I don't know if it's our favorite.
So I only browned half of the butter in this recipe. You don't have to brown any of it if you don't want to. I just like that caramely flavor. So this is a stick and a half of butter and of cold butter, and then a stick and a half of brown butter and 2 cups of sugar. This is gonna make.
You could probably stop cooking right there and just eat that. That would be pretty good.
If Peter would love that.
Butter and sugar.
If he walks by the refrigerator, he likes to take a bite out of the butter.
He does. He enjoys butter quite a bit.
So I microwaved this for a second because the butter actually had kind of a long time to cool, and so you want it to be melted. So I threw that butter and sugar mixture into the microwave, and again that had butter, brown butter, and sugar. And so there's 3 cups of butter in here total, and I wanted it to be a little bit warm because my cream cheese is going to be, it is cold. And so I need that cream cheese to incorporate. So I'm
that's a whole thing of cream cheese.
Yes,
you threw right in
8
there.
ounces of cream cheese. And I did not
let it sit
out. It's not room temperature. I'm kind of an impatient cook. And if I have to do things like that, like if I have to wait for things to come to room temperature, I will. But this recipe actually uses the microwave, so I use it to my advantage. I don't wait for everything to be room temperature. So I'm going to mix this until that cream cheese is complete. There's no little cold pieces of cream cheese left. And what I was saying is this is going to make a lot of Madeleines. So you could cut this recipe in half and make half as many, just make 24 Madeleines. I think I ended up being a little shy. I think I made 23 Madeleines, or it makes 23. I'll show you what I did. Okay, so this is a big recipe, and I like it this way because I am going to split this batter in half before I add the flour. And you'll see why. We have a daughter who is gluten-free. Yes, Rachel. Love her to pieces. She can't have any gluten. So she always gets super sad when I'm baking things. And quick breads, which this is considered like a quick bread, do great gluten-free. So we have Namaste 1-to-1 gluten-free flour. It's all-purpose flour, and I just use it as a complete replacement. It works well in recipes like this. It doesn't work well in yeasted things like the cinnamon rolls. I couldn't make those gluten-free. But this, it does a really good job with it. So this is a tablespoon of pumpkin pie spice.
Ooh.
And if you don't have a pumpkin pie spice mix, you could make your own. I actually have a recipe for it. It uses a half a teaspoon of cinnamon, a fourth a teaspoon of ginger, an eighth a teaspoon of nutmeg, and an eighth of a teaspoon of cloves. So you could have that on hand and use it like pumpkin pie spice. And then I added cardamom, which is warm and delicious, and I believe I added a teaspoon of cardamom. So it goes a long way, but it just makes them a little bit more spicy. And it's wonderful stuff. I love it.
Looks wonderful.
So this is kind of making like a spice cake Madeleine.
I like the spice.
Yeah. So I mixed all those ingredients, and I have almost a complete batter. It just is missing the flour. And so the reason why I did it in a measuring container is because I wanted to see that how much batter there was, and there actually ended up being exactly 5 cups of batter. So I taking out 2.5, putting it in a separate bowl for Rachel.
Wait, she got half?
Yeah, she got half.
What?
Yeah, and then I'm gonna add a cup of gluten-free flour to the smaller bowl, and I'm gonna add a cup of regular old all-purpose flour to the other one, and then we all get Madeleines.
Oh, that's nice of us.
Yeah, and it makes it so that I didn't have to start from scratch and do it twice. And I guess I could have made it gluten-free for all of us because they really do taste good.
They're good.
Except that gluten-free flour is not cheap. And so with all the rest of us not really having an issue at all with gluten, I just tend to...
You gave us the cheap stuff.
Yeah, I gave us the cheap stuff.
Nice.
So also with gluten-free flour, you actually don't have to be really careful with it. There's no gluten to activate, right? So normally when you're making cakes and things, you want to be super careful when you're mixing in the flour. That's why it's usually the last ingredient, because once it's added, you start to activate the gluten and you start to make it more bread-like, which is wonderful in bread. That's why you need bread, because you want to activate that gluten. But in cakes and such, it's not so fun. Okay, so this is my buttered Madeleine tin. That's Tim's noise for his sound effects. This takes a half of my cookie scoop.
Do you like how this doesn't get annoying?
Yeah, it doesn't get annoying at all. And
I feel like I got to commit to it now, though. You can't stop.
So, this is gonna make, I think it's supposed to make 24, but because I scooped them a little bit big, this is gonna make 23 Madeleines. And they freeze so well. That's why I make as many as I do, because they're so easy to throw into a big Ziploc bag and pull them out later. And you can throw them in a lunch, or you can have something kind of elevated and sophisticated when you're drinking hot chocolate or tea. Anyway, so these are going to go into a 325-degree oven for 10 minutes. And then they're good to go. You could drizzle something on top. I love making lemon madeleines and making like a lemon powdered sugar glaze. It's super simple but tart and delicious.
Looks delicious.
They look sometimes a little dry, and I think that's what people look at them like they're kind of naked, and they're really not. They're not dry, and they're just, like you say, the best part of a cupcake or the best part of a muffin.
So good.
Yes, they are so good.
People love them.
Get a Madeleine pan. We think you'll really enjoy baking. There's so many cookbooks and recipes and so much.
We have a whole
much
cookbook for just Madeleines, right?
Yeah, I have a whole cookbook for Madeleines that I got at Le Creuset when I bought my pans. They have savory Madeleines, delicious ones that have like Parmesan cheese and all kinds of, herbs, and they're really just, I love them. And there's so much that you can dip them in chocolate and roll them in nuts, and you don't have to decorate them either, which is kind of nice sometimes. Sometimes when you're baking decorated cookies or
they are already pretty.
Yeah, the baking part of it can sometimes be a lot. And these Madeleines, they're done when they're done baking. So we're really glad you joined us today. Thanks for baking with the Braziers.